What's going on, everybody? I am John Welsh, and I'm the gentleman.
And I'm Alex Stanford, and I'm the scholar. Welcome. Buddy, I'm excited for today.
Oh, yeah? Tell me why.
Because we got this guy as our guest. This is Dr. Brett Venable, the big dog, the head cheese of the Recovery Chiropractic Centers, a company that I actually work a lot with in my practice. And so he was a guy that I've been wanting to have on for a while because every time we get together, there's always a discussion that is fun, yet a little more deep than I think people would want to acknowledge.
All right.
So that's right up your alley.
But that's what makes them fun.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. And I thought, man, we're going to have a good little chat and a smoke. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is our little studio. We've come a long way. When we first started, we did not have nearly the same level of equipment.
Oh no.
We had a green screen and a blank table.
And we were like, yo.
And all we had was enthusiasm.
Well,
And we were never gonna be befuddled by anything.
What? And then every episode, people were like, "Hey, you know what sucked about that one? All this stuff." And so
Everything
we're like, "All right,
you did.
let's fix that. Let's fix this."
But the crazy thing is our first episode is getting the most views and stuff.
I don't know why.
I think it was.
what was the
Vinegar
topic?
Cream.
Who was the guest?
We didn't have a guest.
Oh,
Yeah.
All it was me and John basically being dorks trying to introduce ourselves to YouTube. And so we just had us, a bottle of booze, 2 cigars, and a hope and a dream.
That's all she wrote.
And people love it. But I'm guessing people like that one because the topic, it was all about why cigar culture. Why is it so fun? Why is it something that everybody should do, except maybe people with emphysema? But most other people should get into it. And so we talk a lot about what you like about it, what you don't like about it, how it deals with topics, because I look at cigars as like traditional masculinity distilled. You know, it is such a historically gentlemanly symbol. You read all those antebellum stories, and it's like the men would go retire and have their cigars and brandy, you know, and so there's just something like a time warp when you got guys hanging out smoking cigars, and I really wanted to convey that. And I think that's why people like it, because I see a lot of people contacting me wanting some advice because they're new to smoking, and I just refer them to that episode. I'm like, go watch that.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm definitely new to cigars. I think my only experience with cigars is smoking a little bit with an old banker in Fort Worth, Texas. We'd eat and hang out, go to dinner, and then he'd introduce me to a couple cigars, and that's my only experience.
So what did you think of it though? Did you enjoy it?
Well, I was usually pretty hammered, so I don't think I ever
At
could
least he's honest.
truly appreciate it. He was a fun guy. His name was John Newbern, and he had a bank called Worthington National in downtown Fort Worth, and we'd go hang out and eat dinner. His daughter was in school with me, and we got to be really good friends, and he would always give me one of his cigars. But I'm very amateurish, and it's been years since I've smoked one.
It's been years? Okay. All right. Well, we picked out something I think appropriate for your palate.
It's mild.
But before we do, we have some housekeeping we have to do.
Yes, we do.
Who wants to start? Oh, okay. I was giving you a chance. You know,
No, it's all
I'm always
good.
been doing it. All right. Well, I got to give an official shout out to our sponsor,
Yep.
Bailey's Cigar Room, off Veterans in Karen Crow. It's your one-stop shop for all your tobacco-related products except cigarettes. Why?
Because they are gross.
Exactly. Go see Jamie. Go see Gary. Good guys.
Yep.
Better cigars. We go hang out there all the time, man. And every time it's always you meet people you didn't expect to meet, and
And fans.
it's fun.
And fans of the show.
Yeah. We were there today. And it was great kicking it with Jamie. And then we went walking out. Some guy stopped us. He was like, "Hey, you guys," and we're like, "Yeah." Like your show. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Woot woot. Also, we have a couple of events. We got something I'm very excited to disclose to the public today.
Me too. I'm
We've been
super
working
excited.
on this for a while. We have a promo code.
Sorry, I said.
Oh,
other one.
okay. All right. Can I resume now?
Yes,
You okay?
please. Sorry.
All right, we have a promo code. We've been working on this with Gary and Jamie for a while, trying to get the particulars down. So what you can do, if you go to Bailey's, if you tell them the promo code GNS, you get 10% off your purchase. 10%.
What?
We're saving you money already.
Look, just going into that area alone, it's going to save you your taxes, which is almost it's more than that. But you're getting your taxes saved by GNS.
We're just trying to.
We give back.
We got other things we're working on too, but that's what we got so far. So we're going to go with it. And at Bailey's, we have a couple of events coming up. On the 13th and 22nd of January, they're going to be having viewings for the Economic Forum, 9 a.m. They're going to have coffee and donuts. And you get a smoke. So basically, you can learn about how crappy things are going to be while smoking a good cigar.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of a pickup.
Yeah. It's weighing it out.
And then there's also Cars and Coffee, January 23rd, I believe.
Yes.
That's going to be pretty cool. Basically, people with really cool cars. We don't know anybody with a really cool car, do we, Brett?
I could dig a Cars and Coffee thing for sure. I love cheesy cars.
Cheesy or like muscle cars?
Oh,
Because I was raised.
He's
and
thinking, no, he likes
rebuilt-
Bond villain cars.
Oh, you're one of those. See, I'm a real musclehead. My dad made me, to keep me out of trouble, he made me work on his 442 Cutlass Oldsmobile. The thing was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we would get more stairs. It was a drop top and a white leather. It was rust brown with white race strips. It was crazy. But to keep me, like, and to teach me, of course, he would make me rebuild everything and make it look brand new.
Right.
So the car is just that's how I raised. He had GTOs. He had like just a bunch of muscle cars. Mm-hmm. But long story short, that's how I learned how to work on cars. From my dad and those muscle.
I don't have a true appreciation for those cars. I see them and they're beautiful, but I don't know enough about what's what. My uncle he sold cars for Brian Harris, so he always had like Corvettes, and I was around Audis and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was around Stingrays and
so
like the old school ones.
I like a muscle elite. I like a muscle elite GT car. Is what I like big cruisers. Like
what do you think about the new Corvettes?
I like them a lot. Kenny has one. Our neighbors have one, and I've cruised it and driven it a lot. I have a new little coupe that has the high horsepower and stuff, and I think it's still on the brink of the high horsepower. 600 horsepower V8 is starting to fade away, and we won't see those ever again. So I think it's going to be the last little niche you have of really loud gas engines.
Well, but to that point, I know the Germans are doing great breakthrough things in putting speakers that make your engine sound loud into the car.
That's a bummer.
It's like, was that against the rules?
Yeah, I think that's a bummer.
That's what people get the thrill from. They get the thrill from the sound, the way it feels, the way it purrs to them. That's what they get. But then you step into one of the new sports tests, the Tesla Sports or whatever, and you get that ludicrous mode or whatever. It's just as fast.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the torque, that's going to spin the tires, and it's not going to do all that. It's just going to boom. You're just going to shot put. But that's exactly what's in the new Ferraris, the new Lamborghinis. They have, I think it's called like launch mode. Because my brother, he gets all those cars anyway. So he's here's launch mode. Check this out, and boom, you're like, like grab that dollar, that whole thing. You can grab the dollar, you can have the car, and you're like, I can't grab the dollar. You're already hitting like 5 Gs just from the takeoff.
Yeah, performance standpoint, gas will never be able to compete with electric in a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah, no,
but the nostalgia is there for the gas and the loud V8 still.
That's why I didn't want to get a Tesla. I love the sound.
Me too.
I love that.
Yeah, that's why the Germans are
every
doing
time you start it on. That's just.
That's why
amazing.
the Germans are doing that. That's why they're putting those sounds, and it still vibrates you like you're in a car, but you're not. You're listening to a Bose
right
system.
Well, we do have some cigars to smoke.
Yeah, we do.
By the way,
we're already in the
let's go. We're like in launch mode. All of us just into it. But before we do that, we have one more thing we have to say. I thought you were going to get to it. If you're watching at home, hit the subscribe button, send the bell for notifications, drop a comment, and share it. We've had our last episode get shared by our friends. Really appreciate that. I would love to have the fellow brothers and sisters of the Leap of the Facebook community share it, but if you don't have titties in it, they ain't gonna look at it. That's the way the cigar community is.
Well, it's like that. But if you don't feed the algorithm, we don't get to the top of the heap, and we pushed us so far that they're trying to sweep us down. Because in the first week, and this is one of the things that blew my mind, in the first week when we were up on YouTube, we were on the For You page. Like if you had ever said any, or you even clicked on a cigar, we were the top of the heap because we went. Within the first 20 minutes, we had over 100 views, and they were just like, "Oh, wait, who are these guys?" So they pushed us to the top of the heap. But once you hit that subscribe button and that bell notification, you put us back up there. So thanks everybody who does do that, but that's why.
And everybody who doesn't, we only hate you a little bit.
Just this one.
Just a little bit. But, we turn things around quick. We get over it fast.
All right.
Right? So let's get to some sticks. Why don't you take them out and show us what we've got today?
All right.
Yes, honor.
Oh, we have 3 cigars. That's all I know.
All right, just pass them around.
All right.
I did bring enough for the whole class.
Ooh.
All right, so do you remember the other day when you were describing that 615 and about how you loved it? And I looked it up.
No, you mean it's the 601.
It was a 601?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 601. Right. I'm not good with numbers. And then we looked it up, and it was by a company called Espinosa.
Yep.
And so paying off of that, I was like, all right, well, let's try a different one because the 601 is fantastic. And this is the Espinosa Crema. It is a Connecticut, so it's going to be a milder smoke, but it's going to have a little bit of a cream flavor. Not as strong as the Vinegar Cream, which was episode 1, right? That was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one.
But it should have some nice notes to it. So what we'll do is our pre-light inspection. So the reason why cigar smokers do this is because we are really obnoxious and we just like to stare at stuff before we smoke it. But what you're looking for is imperfections in the wrapper. You want to look how it's rolled. So you have the bottom of the cigar called the foot. Okay. You're going to want to look in that and see how tightly packed is it. Are there big spaces? Do you see stems, twigs, anything like that in there? And sometimes you'll actually see like a hole. And that means that there was a problem in the rolling, and that's going to cause you some tunneling issues when you smoke it, and that's no bueno. So you examine that, and so far, foot looks good. It has a nice dense center. The wrapper, which is the outer leaf, you're looking for tears. You're looking for little holes. Little holes would be done by beetles, which would mean, well, John knows all about smoking beetle
Yeah,
blood.
I call it doing the recorder.
It was like smoking a flute.
You're literally trying to hold
over.
up the holes because once you do the draw, it sucks the air through there, so you're not getting the pull you're supposed to.
All right.
So yeah, I said it was like smoking a recorder because you got to keep your hands over the holes. You're like, okay, I can go now. But if it's a good enough smoke, you're willing to put up with that.
So I really only see one vein in the wrapper, which is a good sign. You want to see minimal veining, so the less the better. Everything looks good.
Show me a vein.
All right, so the vein is going to be that thing right there.
Okay.
You want it to look as smooth and uniform as possible, and so they typically will have this is what you're looking for. Very, very, very smooth. That's the money right there.
All right.
You get a really high-end Cuban cigar, and they look like they're made out of chocolate. It doesn't even look like leaf.
See, for me, I kind of judge the cigar right from the beginning by its presentation. So I'm looking at the way the wrapper is. Does it have those beveled, parts to it? How uniform it is. If they're going to take the time to do all that and to put wrappers stuff, it's going to be worth it. You're going to spend. There's a reason why you're spending an extra $3 to $4. And this has the makings of all that.
How much are these cigars?
This one was like $10.75.
Yeah.
A piece.
So, which is
middle of the road.
Yeah,
if you're smoking good stuff, that's $10 to $12. You can get all kinds of great sticks in that price range.
Amazing cigars.
All right, so now that we've done our inspection, we're going to take the cap, and you want to cut about a couple of millimeters, just enough to get a good airflow, but you don't want to start unraveling your wrapper.
I also like to smell it to try to see if I'm going to pick up those notes as I do my dry pull.
Very faint aroma.
Yeah,
I'm not smelling a whole lot. All right, let's take the old dry pull. A little cedar, but it's not a lot. There's no cream note in the dry pull at all. The Vinegar Cream, I believe, had a lot more going on. What are you picking up on the dry pull?
I don't know. I don't think I can be descriptive enough. I don't have any creamy flavor.
No creamy. It's almost like a little hay.
That's all I'm getting is hay. That's all I got on my first dry pull.
All right, so now that we've done all of that, now we're ready to light. So we have some torches.
All right.
The way we will do this, I have another one that Cohiba one kind of is persnickety.
It's persnickety.
All right, so you're not going to want to put the flame directly on it.
All right.
Just kind of like that so you can see it catching, and then you just turn it. You want to try to keep the heat on the center of the foot as much as possible. You don't want to burn that wrapper on the outside. And then when you're seeing the majority of the foot be, you're clicking like crazy over there. I told you, just use mine. Okay, so now we'll just take a little, and that means you should be pretty good at that point.
He said, you're clicking like crazy.
You're just clicking, man.
Well, yeah, it's that Cohiba one. It's like, it's a Japanese knockoff.
And then you also want to make sure that everything's burning evenly. So you look at it, and if it's not quite up to par,
Like
you
that
can
part?
you can touch it up again.
All right. I was taking like a big drag, expecting it to smoke out like yours was. Not really much.
Ooh.
Also, don't inhale the smoke.
Yeah, you don't inhale. Oh, he knows that. He smoked cigars before.
Well, he said he was trashed every time, so I don't know exactly how much he remembered.
I know the
It's all about
instructions. I'm not very responsible, but I know the instructions.
It's all about the taste, it's not about inhaling it. It's like you want to have those oils blend in your mouth with the leaf, and then that's what makes up the whole essence of it,
All right, what are you tasting?
See, there's pepper on the back end, and I'm hitting the hay is way predominant. Hold on.
Dude, that was on the money. It's got a little pepper on the back end. All right, so when we say pepper, let me tell you what we're referring to. So if you take white pepper or black pepper and you just put it on your tongue, don't consider the taste. Consider the stinging sensation of it. How it's a really, really mild sting because it's not like a hot sauce sting, but it's just that mild little sensation. At the end of this cigar, you're going to have that on the top of your tongue.
Yep.
Not the tip, but the top. It's going to feel like there's a little sting to it. And that's what we call the pepper.
Yeah, I'm not really having any cream at all. Maybe it's more in,
I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, it's got to come because I mean, it would.
I'm not really tasting
I
either.
didn't taste anything creamy, but it does feel very mild.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely a mild.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
It's not gonna smack you across the face like a Maduro.
No, you're not gonna turn green. And
What's a mild one? I mean, what did you reference just now?
Maduro.
Maduro.
A Maduro is a very heavy cigar. It goes Connecticut's were the very mild. Then you have Sun-Grown, which is like in between, and then you have the Maduros, which is gonna take it to another level.
And I'm not really like an expert on the difference between what makes a cigar. Like what is it? What is fullness? Is there more smoke per square centimeter smoked? I don't really know.
I think it has to do everything to do with the leaves and how it's grown. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, if it's all about time of aging. So the longer you age it, the darker the leaves get. But that makes them more on the full side of the spectrum. It shifts it over. Is it because more smoke is created, or is there something different about the smoke itself? I guess that's the thing I'm not really sure about.
Why don't mine look like yours?
Okay, so your burn is not completely uniform. So
see, good looking out.
There you go. So what we'll do is
Way to catch that.
I'm gonna hit it like this and now you can start to. Okay, so now go ahead and hit it. There you go. Now it's gonna rim ash, and then it'll start looking nice and cute like ours.
All right.
It looks so cute.
But seriously, there is a technique to smoking it, and you want the burn to be uniform, and you want the ash to be tight. You don't want to knock it
1%
off.
in, and we've already identified the amateur. Oh,
I wouldn't say amateur. It's you were drunk when you got the other ones.
The prerequisites didn't carry over.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it, man. There's so much to talk about. We won't have no time to spare.
Okay. All right. Well, where do you want to start?
I want to start at what happened at this rally. Like, we got to talk about it. It's everyone's talking about it.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm not trying to turn everyone away. I mean, this is something that I want to talk about because I want to get your opinion.
Okay.
So, we all know had a rally trying to save the steel or whatever.
Remember what I told you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It took.
So these people think that I'm saying these people. I'm talking about people that are the keyboard warriors.
The keyboard warriors.
That literally there's no way that their opinion can't be deterred that it was all these Trump supporters. When there's video proof out there, and I hate to bring this guy's show up because I'm not going to say, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. I am a Republican, but I'm not going to take either views because I go,
wait, really?
If there's bullshittery out there, then there's bullshittery out there. You have to call it. You know what I mean? Whoever side it's on. Why I'm saying this is because Roman from the Epic Times put out a video that literally shows you people singing, the national anthem. They were saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then he also says it was peaceful. Then all of a sudden, there was a group that comes in, and they start riling everybody up. They start literally fighting with the police. Then the real Trump protesters are trying to stop them. But according to everybody, that's not real. And what is up with the Simpsons always predicting these things, even down to the people who are there? How does that happen?
I don't know. I agree with the Simpsons part.
Seriously, what the hell?
I don't know. All right, so what are you asking my opinion on?
So, okay, here I'm asking your opinion on this. So, do you believe that it was all these Trump protesters and it was solely them? It wasn't Antifa kind of put in there. It wasn't Black Lives Matter put in there? Because that's already been proven by reporting. But they're saying that, no, that's not true. Depending on what news station you're watching.
So here's my approach to these types of issues. There's always some data that you have to draw a conclusion upon, okay? And some people, they like to run with their conclusions. And so I can see somebody saying, well, yeah, because of the fact that, video recognition, facial recognition imagery identified, 4 people who were known Antifa people who were playing some role. So that means, therefore, 110% of all the culpability is on Antifa as instigators. And,
I'm not saying that.
I could see why people would go there, but I can't go there. And so where I am is I'm always going to admit reality exists, because that would be insanity not to. So the video is real. It shows what it shows, and it speaks for itself. But beyond that, what conclusions can I reliably infer? I don't know. I mean,
do you believe that Trump incited that riot?
Well, my matter of belief, it's about what were the words that were said. And I actually looked for the case to be made, because a lot of people, that was the headline, was that, Trump should be charged as a insider, and that he should be immediately taken out of office. And so I'm like, all right, well, is this where, this really happened? Or is this more of the media taking something and then kind of shifting it a little bit and then framing it so that it actually says something totally different than, if they're fake newsing it? So I went and I looked on CNN, I looked on New York Times, and I read a couple of articles about that issue, because it's like, all right, they're going to reference what he said, right? If you're going to make the case that Trump should be held liable for this riot, you're going to have to tell me why. So I'm reading these articles, like, all right, so they're going to give me the best case for that position. I'm not going to go to Fox. I'm not going to go to, because they're going to put their own spin on it. And so I was like, I want to get the best case. So I went and read it. There wasn't a single quote that had anything to do with any kind of political violence, any kind of anything. It was stuff where it was like, be forceful, go over there. But if you understand what he thinks and what his followers think, and I do because I know a bunch of them, they all took that to mean go there and have a rally and march your little signs and do all that stuff. But the people that hate him, they look at everything he does through the worst possible lens. And so if there is a way to see it this way, they jump to that rather than be compelled to that through the, through reason.
Do you think they have enough to go on to actually do the impeachment in now 12 days?
That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because impeaching is strictly a political process. It's not about merit. There's no standard. There's no burden of proof that you have to pass to impeach somebody. All you have to do is raise your hand and say, take him out. That's it. So I don't get your question.
So, well, I mean, they have to have cause to impeach a president.
Well, they have to type up articles of impeachment, but then they just vote. They could impeach him for pulling his toilet paper from the wrong side of the roll, if enough people wanted to. Mm-hmm. That's how it has a tradition of being rooted in high crimes and misdemeanors, because that's how it's written in the Constitution. But I don't know, you got all these people who are like, it's a living document, they can make it mean whatever it wants. And so now you have every 5 seconds Nancy Pelosi being like, impeachment. She's taking a nap, someone bumped her, impeachment. She's been on it. And now that you've let the camel's nose under the tent, it's going to get easier and easier to do it, because we've relaxed the standard away from like, there needs to be some serious mess going on. Now it's just like, he made a phone call and said some not nice things about Joe Biden, so he's got to go. Like, we're losing our minds.
But he did not have any sexual relations with those people. I swear.
Dude, your George Bush impression's terrible.
No. Wrong person.
So I am not a registered Republican. I've voted and given more money to Republicans than I have to Democrats. Mm-hmm. But I think I don't like Trump either. And he knows I don't like Trump. I can't believe we jumped right into that. I knew you were setting me up.
Dude. No, it's been so heavy on my head. I'm just like,
right.
I'm like, because for me, I don't understand if someone's, like, I look at both sides, because half the time I'm kind of with the Democrats, not the rhetoric. I'm with them like, yeah, I kind of see it that way too. Like,
it's really hard for me to identify as a Democrat. I really believe I'm partyless at the time. But like when you said there's people that you feel like they're Antifa or BLM people that are involved in that too, I think that's a high possibility or high probability even. But I also think it's early, and I also know that Wolf, who's the head of Homeland Security, called them Trump supporters. And that's someone who's appointed by Trump. So when I make my arguments against Trump, I never ever identify a news source, and I never ever identify Democrats. Okay. I try to identify just what's in his party or people he selected and picked and who he chose. And do I think he incited it? I think he definitely inflamed it. And you said, you looked at his words and he said, go over there and be forceful. So if you're saying go to the Capitol and be forceful, and if your attorney, which I think represents the person in a lot of ways, says this should be trial by combat, those are in fact their words. And the whole core of the rally is save the steal. Is that what the...
Yeah.
Stop the steal.
Stop the steal. I think you are patriotic if there is in fact an election that was stolen. I mean, if you went in and tore down the Capitol and prevented a fraudulent election, I think that's patriotic. But the core is it truly fraudulent?
Mm-hmm.
And the overwhelming majority of judges he appointed, of Republican legislatures and Republican senators said, no, this is not a fraudulent election. So the core of the whole rally, I believe to be false and formed by him and inflamed a bit by him. I like a lot of his foreign policy. I like a few things he's done. I'm not a manic Trump hater. I rather just judge people on their policy.
Right. And I think that's very commendable that you always divorce your position from a source and you avoid those labels. I probably should do that as well, because I find that when I'm ever trying to have like an actual discussion, it should be like, okay, you're on this side of the fence, I'm on this other side of the fence, but we can at least agree on facts. Mm-hmm. And there are going to have to be some facts which are problematic for you, like more problematic for your side than for my side. That doesn't mean everything you think is wrong. It's just, well, this fact doesn't look so good for you. But like, it's so hard to have those conversations, because I'll be like, hey, here's a story, that raises these issues. Let's talk about it. And they're like, epic times, get real.
Right.
And I'm like, but
I think Fox News and CNN is just purely clickbait and entertainment.
At this point, yeah.
So I kind of read Reuters and AP, but in the 2020 world we live in, the nice thing we can do is actually, or used to be able to yesterday, is be able to say, okay, let's go exactly to Trump's feed and see exactly what he said. Then I can evaluate what he said there. And I can listen to everyone that's served with him or has been with him or in the immediate presence of him and see what their opinions is. And so if the FBI director appointed by Trump and the Department of Homeland Security person appointed by Trump arrests people that are 90% Trump supporters and says these people are responsible, then I have to say, yes, those Trump supporters are responsible. And there might be 5-10% BLM, Antifa involved, but if the Trump appointed people said that's Trump supporters incited, I have to say that's a Trump supporter.
And I have to say that if I'm on the pro-Trump side of that situation, I have to say those appointed people saying that's a problem for me. What am I going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And I see Trump supporters have as their go-to move when such a fact is presented, special pleading out the ass. Oh, well, that guy, he's just, he's compromised by this guy, so that's why he's saying that. And like, okay, do you know how many facts you have to assume to support that protect?
So
like, no way.
It's really early to me to say who's responsible. You have to go through.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
So
the same,
early.
the same thing with the voting and how everything he keeps claiming everything's fraud. Dude, if all these judges are saying you don't have enough to base that on because we can't even hear it because it's that bad, you either have to ask yourself, wow, there's a lot of people in this coup, or they might be right.
Yeah.
There might not be enough evidence, and you might be lying.
Because I'm not God. Sorry, kids, but because of that, I have to know my limitations. And one thing that I have to say is true, regardless of my opinions. You know, I have what I'd like to be true, what I'd like to believe about all this stuff, but I have to first start with what is reality. And what is reality is that there are people on both sides of this single issue that believe it so strongly that you have Sidney Powell being sued by Dominion for $1.7 billion. You don't get more convicted in your beliefs than that. That tells me, number one, Sidney Powell really believes what she's saying because she's willing to get sued for damn near $2 billion over it. I don't know what statement I'm $2 billion married to, you know? I'd be like, well, about that, I don't know, you know? And then the other thing we have to know is that Dominion really believes their side because they're willing to sue her for that. And they both can't be right? And I don't even think they're both in good faith.
No.
How can you? So we have somebody who's a bad faith actor, knows they're a bad faith actor, but they believe it. I can't reconcile that.
For me, I would say I personally can't believe either party. But if you go in front of the Trump judge and that Trump-appointed judge says, no, get out of here, this lawsuit is BS, Dominion is fine, then I have to lean towards Dominion might be right on this argument.
Kind of sitting there. That's where I'm at right now with it.
I generally lean towards Democrats that come out of red areas or Republicans that come out of blue areas. If you are a Democrat that come out of a hard blue area, we rarely agree. Or Republicans, I hate to say it, in South Louisiana, who are the die-hard and red, everything is...
They make me want to vomit.
It's tough for me. And like we talk a lot, I feel like I'm without a party sometimes because I'm a free market guy to the core. And there's so much socialism everywhere that just hurts, you know?
Yeah.
And then I feel like we socialize certain private market systems on the Republican side. So I feel like I'm without a party right now.
Well, dude, I've always
think a lot
felt
of
that way.
people feel like that.
The only...
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way too because you don't know who to trust. And when you can't trust the people that you're appointing in these... And it goes strictly to these certain little areas, and they put people and they appoint people. They're like, no, that's our leader for our party, so we're going to put them in charge. And then you watch them block bills like that visa bill that Nancy Pelosi blocked, and then made her $500 million.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's insane. How? And I asked you this before. I said, how can she get away with that? And then when I learned that. People that are in the Senate and people that are in the House, they both can go, oh, no, we're going to make little rules for us and pass them along with these bills to make it so they're protected so they can do things like that.
They can't it's not illegal for them to insider trade.
That is insane to me.
It is insane. And the thing is that there are certain facts that a reasonable person would say everybody should be mad about that.
Oh, yeah.
There should not be a single person who tries to defend it. But sure enough, I can't find a single issue where we're all mad together. There's always one extreme that's just like, no.
One cigar question.
Yes.
Okay.
When do you ash?
You don't.
It looks like you waited too long.
Actually, it's because I'm from up north, so I talk a lot with my hands.
Oh, okay.
It's just it's.
So I ash, and I didn't know if I was doing something wrong.
Okay, so the thing about ashing is that obviously you prevent that kind of mishap by ashing. So that's a pro of it. The con is that once you ash, you've disturbed the airflow into the cigar, and it won't stay lit as well. So the crazy thing is that when I'm smoking one of these, if my timing is good, one puff a minute, then it will go all the way down. I'll never have to relight it. I'll never have a problem. But once that ash falls off, then I'm just like, okay, this got high maintenance. I'm going to be relighting it every 5 minutes, and that's just, I don't understand really why that's the way it is, but it's certainly been the empirical observations. So
I was just waiting for him to tell his really bad cigar joke. He talks about this little hole.
I would never. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was waiting for you to say it.
No. And I'm very much okay with not talking about any other inflammatory topics right now. because
no, we've already we blessed him off on everything. We already made him feel uncomfortable.
I'm a nomad, so I piss everybody off. There's not really a camp where there are a bunch of people like me, because the way I am already puts me in a very, very pronounced minority, because I can't think emotionally. And so that's such a big aspect of people's thinking, because they feel attached to their thinking. And I'm just like, what does the feeling have to do with whether or not it's true? And so, like, it doesn't even show up on my radar. And so right away,
it's identity politics.
Every place I go into, I'm having problems with people, because I'm like, that doesn't make it, that's wrong. And I show how they're actually using some kind of flawed methodology that's more emotional, and then they get mad at me. And then I go to the other side, and then they get mad at me. And so,
okay, I'm going to take a break from our conversation and tell you that I'm still not feeling any of that cream that they're talking about in the cigar.
Not really.
There's none.
It's a little nutty,
but that's good.
But no cream.
Yeah.
Which typically they go together, but
none cream. Again, making it feel uncomfortable.
That's
He's like, what did I get myself into?
Hey, I warned him. I say, look, man, I'm going to say a bunch of weird shit. So, oops. So what are you picking up?
After you said that, yeah, definitely. But usually when I get to this point, like mid-cigar, I'm ready to just be done. Like I usually was sitting and just kind of talking after that. But I could keep smoking this. So I think mild would be good. I think after you said Maduro, I think that's what he smoked.
Yeah, the very dark colored ones.
They were, they were, I don't know if that makes sense. Very, very dark, always fat. And he usually kind of let them go out and chew on them.
I mean, I guess we should say cigars of color, just to make sure we don't run afoul of any...
COL. Great. It's a COL.
It's a COL. All right.
But again, I think this is it's not a bad Connecticut.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. So compare with the Vinegar Cream, stick for stick.
I would like to try now one that's very creamy.
Oh, the Vinegar Cream will blow you away. This is not blowing me away. This is a great Connecticut, but it's not like Vinegar Cream.
And I have a feeling our experience would be a lot more positive if we didn't have that cream word, in our minds. And being like, we're looking for it.
And you ruined it.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, but it's in the name of the cigar.
That is. Is it an ironic name? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit, because I know my wife is watching this on clenched knuckles, waiting for me to say something that's going to get us canceled. So I'm being good. All right. So let's talk about what you do, Brett.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
All right.
I really do.
Give me the good.
There is, I was really tickled at the opportunity to have a chiropractor on the show, because there is a lot about just the science of chiropractic that I think needs to be hashed out.
Yep.
I have,
That's why I have a lot of questions.
I work with not only chiropractors but also doctors, general practitioners, surgeons, the whole gamut, and there is a lot of beef between the institutions of general medicine and chiropractic. And I've heard most of it is one way. It's the doctors throwing shade. There's a lot of that. And I've heard what they've had to say, and I've personally experienced a ton of chiropractors, because I typically, if I'm going to use somebody, I want to know what's their approach. So I go over there and let them work on me, and then I get to see how they look at the body, how they view systems and etiology, all that kind of stuff. There's some shit ones. So I wanted to be able to have someone come on and we can address a lot of preconceived notions. There are so many people who, and I'm sure you know this, are scared to death of going to a chiropractor. And they don't really know why. They just know that's what they feel. And I'm guessing it's a combination of they hear a lot of the talk from doctors, and so they associate them with like faux doctors, like witch doctors, and then you hear what they do.
Yeah, that's where I'm in that realm of, excuse me, like you hear people talk about being able to, if you have a lot of inflammation after you get adjusted or whatever, you don't hear the science on the other side of how to stop that inflammation from happening. And like every time that I've ever had to go to a chiropractor, they're like, bring you're gonna have to go to a doctor and get an X-ray and then bring it to us. And I'm just like, why can't you do that? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm asking. That's my first question.
So we're gonna ask. We're all over there. So all over the map. So I believe, just like in your party affiliation, you should hold the people within your party or in your profession to a higher standard than you would with anything else. Okay. Nice. So within my profession as well too, I hold every chiropractor to a very, very high standard. And there are some chiropractors out there that aren't practicing evidence-based care. Okay. Now, I'm not sure of your experience with someone having to do an X-ray somewhere else, but the difference between a chiropractor and a physical therapist, just from a legal standpoint, I guess, is we are identified as primary care portal of entry providers. We diagnose, we take X-rays. I have an X-ray in my office, and I'm responsible for whatever shows up on that X-ray. I have to identify and diagnose whatever's on that X-ray. So in other words, if someone had cancer and I missed it on that diagnosis, and any prudent physician would have noticed that cancer, then I am held liable for malpractice. Okay?
Did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
We are held to the same standard. I built my practice specifically on referrals from medical doctors. Okay? I teach continuing medical education. I teach lunch and learns for UMC for medical doctors, and I teach continuing legal education for lawyers. And usually when I teach a CLE, a radiologist follows me, and the radiologist is a former patient. His name's Dr. Burns. He's worked for Lords. I'm sure you've seen all his radiology reports and stuff like that. But he was a prior patient of mine, and we identify his old MRI, and we talk about the treatment that I did for him. So I have a medical doctor that works in my office. So we are a multidisciplinary, musculoskeletal-based, evidence-based chiropractor. Now,
well, that in and of itself is a pretty radical departure from the genesis of chiropractic.
I mean, the genesis of chiropractic, I guess, you mean like the beginning, like the origins of chiropractic? Yeah. I guess the origin of chiropractic is back in Davenport, Iowa, from a guy named D.D. Palmer. All right, he was a magnetic healer and a total whack job. Now, he's considered the founder of chiropractic. Okay, now the founder of modern medicine is a guy named Benjamin Rush. He signed the Declaration of Independence, prominent place in history. He was a terrible physician. His number one treatment was bloodletting. He killed George Washington. Okay, so if you do those comparables to back then, yes, they were both crap.
Well, I guess what I mean is that your approach to chiropractic is that you are interdisciplinary. You're to use a progressive word, you're intersectional, because you understand that that healthcare is bigger than any one discipline, and they all have to work together.
Absolutely.
To optimize that. And I think that's the correct way to look at it. But I do know chiropractors that are practicing today who do not think that.
Absolutely. And there's medical doctors, that are crap on us. I like I said, there's not a week that goes by that I don't refer to medical doctors. There's not a week that goes by that I don't get more referrals from medical doctors than people I refer out to. So if you are a chiropractor and you recognize evidence-based care and you treat musculoskeletal problems, you're going to do well. You're going to make good money, because doctors everywhere want that. There's an opioid epidemic in the world right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Back pain through COVID, through everything, is still the number one problem in the ER right now. Okay? So if you have a drug-free approach to neck and back pain, there's a huge opportunity for you. So are there chiropractors out there that say, here, I can cure cancer, or I can do all of these crazy wacko things, or I can, I don't want to get too into it, but basically I think we're musculoskeletal providers, but we have responsibility to diagnose, and we're a primary care provider. Now, are there medical doctors doing absolutely wacko stuff in our communities? Yes. There's an OB in a small city not far from here who's doing purely breast augmentation under Twilight. Okay? So there's medical doctors that are practicing way outside their realm. A lot of GPs are practicing, in my opinion, way outside their specialty. So there's that too. But the majority of chiropractors are operating within a musculoskeletal scope and treating neck and back pain. We got some fringe guys, but the chiropractors today, especially people that are just coming out of school, are generally practicing within the realm of musculoskeletal care. Now, medical doctors and chiropractors, I think the whole world, in a way, is moving towards homeopathy, basically, where we're getting away from antibiotics a little bit more for our kids. Where Whole Foods are in Lafayette. The first Whole Foods I saw was in Dallas like 12 years ago. And I went in there, I'm like, man, this place is very, very hipster, weirdo. Look at all these natural products. Everything is, no artificial anything. And this was kind of like in a little weird spot in Dallas. And now, I would have never imagined that a block from my house, there's going to be a Whole Foods in Lafayette, Louisiana. So there's a move towards natural consumption where people want less chemicals in their diet and things like that. So chiropractors can be, I think, sometimes legit in their pursuit of natural means.
But even within the stratum of chiropractors who have that similar approach to you, they don't all do it the same, man. Like, there are some chiropractors where they say all the right stuff, but after one time, I'm like, I'm never let you touch me again, buddy.
Right.
And I had to go to one of your clinics not that long ago. I have a degenerative disc situation in my spine, and it got so bad during the 2000s that I was almost bedridden. I could barely walk, couldn't run, couldn't play any athletics, and I was a gym rat, and so it was a real blow, and I couldn't even play with my kids, couldn't pick them up. And I went to David Barczyk, and he got me mobile again. And every step of the way, he was telling me the science behind what he was doing, and because of my brain, I was like, that makes all the sense in the world. And then I got amazing results. Well, I had a flare up, something happened, and I was having a lot of radiculopathy, and so I went to see Jason, and that was my first time going over there. But I'd heard nothing but good things from my staff. But I think that's probably because they just think he's cute, and so they dote on him. Like they Facebook stalked the hell out of him. Sorry, Jason. But anyway, I went over there, and his approach was like a combination of a chiropractor and a sports rehab specialist, because he went and approached it from several different angles. So it wasn't like there's only one mechanism of injury and I'm just going to treat that. He's like, no, there's this and there's this and there's this. And so like he was doing all these things, and man, knocked it the hell out. Yeah. It was really impressive. And so I think you guys are doing great work, and I love seeing guys who take what I think of as being like the nerdy approach to it, because anything that's cool.
The nerdy approach, it's the right approach.
Yeah, but sometimes, but if you take the nerdy approach, it's always right. You can't ever have too much nerd. That's just, that's just my thing.
Not from your caregiver.
I have one doctor that we use. I'm not going to say his name because I use him all the time, but he's the squirreliest dude, and he's always got a Red Bull in his hand, and he's always kind of tweaking a little bit, and he's got squirrely eyes, and he's just, but when he talks, you're just like, your intelligence is intimidating me right now. Like, you're saying so much stuff, and I'm like, whoa. But like, it's funny because I have such a heavy science background.
Phenomenal physicians that live very unhealthy.
What? Oh my goodness! It's like, dude, I bet your blood is syrup. Yeah. Like that can't be good for you, man.
Yeah.
But that's how they do what they do. So what I want to and this might be something that you don't want to talk about, and that's fine. Do you have any stories of encounters with the crackpot chiros?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say crackpot chiros, and I mean I will totally sell a chiropractor in the river and call them out in absolute, say you're a crackpot chiropractor. But there was an instance where the chiropractor isn't indecent, I guess. But some people have a wellness-based approach to chiropractic clinic, and if your whole gist is you come to the chiropractor and I'm gonna change your overall health, okay? Then you have to tell me how on an evidence-based platform and give me the science behind it. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if you're saying I'm giving an adjustment, I'm going to just wow your immune system and you're going to be super healthy because of it, then I think you're a chiropractor.
You said it.
You're a crackpot chiropractor. Okay?
Pour this man a drink.
Now.
You said super.
He's got it.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Done. All right. So if you are a chiropractor who says I'm going to change your overall health,
right,
and then you confer with a nutritionist and you look at their overall diet, and you also have a gym in your place, and you've now looked at all the inflammatory components and the diet and the overall health of this person. You implement a system there where your goal is for overall health of that patient. Then cool, I think you're doing everything fantastic. So I was hired by a defense firm to challenge the treatment plan for this health-based chiropractor. Okay, and if you go see this chiropractor, he determines that you are on a lifetime plan. So he is always going to actively adjust the treatment, your diet, your workout regimen, whatever it is, to improve your overall health. And you're going to have regular, periodic appointments that you assess all those things. Okay. Well, a plaintiff attorney determined that that person was in a car accident, and the chiropractor said he needed lifetime care. So they were building the settlement, saying that the plaintiff
future medicals are going to be
future medicals
astronomical.
are infinite. There's a 50-year future medical involved with this person, and so
That doesn't stink.
right.
Oh my God.
So the defense company called me. He's like, "Here, there's this, diagnosis or whatever," and he's like, "And this is the treatment plan. What is your opinion? Is this all accident related?" And I said, "No, it's not. I don't believe there's a lifetime plan that correlates to this person's injury and the diagnosis or whatever." And so that's when I went, and I crucified somebody else in my own profession and said, "This is awful, and this treatment plan doesn't correlate." Blah 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 blah. So yeah, I've done it in court.
Wow.
So I'm
Stitches get stitches.
No, I like him already, but he's smart. I mean, there's no way that you can say it's infinite. Like it's never the treatment can never heal. Like,
Right.
come on.
I mean, you can have an injury that never heals, but you have to substantiate that with medical records
Yeah.
and a diagnosis that correlates to that. You can get hit and be paralyzed tomorrow. That's something that will be with you forever, and you have to make all these lifestyle modifications forever. But if you're a young, healthy person that goes to see this chiropractor, you are on a lifetime plan. Every single patient gets a lifetime plan.
I see that in all my records.
Right.
They always say that, with the nature of this injury, all you can do is maintain it, and so this person's still going to have issues, and they're going to have to come back for the rest of their life. They all say that.
Tab you.
Thanks a lot.
So,
Well, I agree. And again with the science that I read, with inflammation and stuff like that, and then people say like, oh well, you shouldn't pop your knuckles, you shouldn't crack and adjust yourself because it's just gonna make it worse. I don't believe that either.
that was actually tested.
Right.
There was
so-
a guy who cracked all the knuckles in one hand only, and it was like 50 years. It was a really long amount of time. I don't know if it's 50 years, but it was a really long amount of time.
Okay.
Nothing.
But,
No difference whatsoever.
And that's what I'm saying. Like he's using more of the science base of this is why you're doing it, and what are you eating? Like that's to give some context. Like I never the last time I went to a chiropractor was years ago. Like I'm talking about like well over 14 years ago. So that it's older base.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I would say personally, I've been practicing for 12 years, and I was practicing responsibly then, I think. And I think I'm willing to learn if I'm doing something irresponsible, I guess. But years ago, the chiropractor that I went to so the reason I became a chiropractor is I was in junior high, and I went to a little crappy school in Eunice called St. Ed's. We graduate 50 people at a time. It's small, and so everybody kind of does all sports. And so I was in 8th grade, and I was playing JV football, and I had a stinger that I kept getting pain down my arm. I went to see a medical doctor. He prescribed physical therapy. I didn't have a great response. I went to see another specialist, and they were kind of suggesting some more aggressive type procedures. And then I chose a chiropractor, and I had a great response from the chiropractor, almost a S-word response. And then, I would determine then I'm going to be a chiropractor, and that was in 8th grade. And I mapped it out when I would graduate and everything, and I became a chiropractor. And I had a really good response to chiropractic. So that was my personal story, and that's my experience with chiropractic. And the chiropractor I went to was musculoskeletal based. He could speak with, and his notes and my notes you can read them clearly with a medical doctor. So if you give my notes to a medical doctor, they're exactly, we're using the same orthopedic test, we're using the same neurologic test, we're using the same SOAP notes, we're using OPURST, the acronym on how we intake a patient. Everything looks exactly the same. If you're not in the medical world and you're using something that a medical doctor can't read, then I don't know what you're practicing, in my opinion.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna dog on some bad chiropractors.
I see. Give me the sauce.
So, okay, my father had a practice since the 70s. And so he knew the chiropractors who were practicing in the 80s and getting their licenses in. So they're all old dogs now. Some of them are still practicing, some have retired. And when I get their records, they were already like in the system that he was using them. So it wasn't like I could be like, I don't know if I'm going to keep using you.
When was this?
This was...
You said 70s?
Like, he started in the 70s.
Gotcha.
And so I get their records, and they have their little, like, preliminary report. They whatever literature, they send. And there was this one guy who, in his little mission statement or whatever on his records, talked about he was unifying and aligning the healing energies that were gonna. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I never have to use this guy for anything good. It's like, just, you could tell a lot from just the way they talk, how into the woo they are. And then there was one guy, I don't use this guy anymore. He worked on me and my wife because we had been in a car accident, and I go in there, and right away my like Kool-Aid meter started going off because he had all the charismatic like affectation of a cult leader. And he had that Heaven's Gate kind of look in his eye, and he was just very, very convinced of everything he said. But a lot of stuff he said, I'm pretty sure that face is not justified. You probably should have a little bit of reservation about what you're telling me. And he was talking about the curative powers of lemon juice, and that if I just drank nothing but lemon juice, I'm like, my teeth would rot out. Like, what great benefits? And he was just extolling this diet like this was the panacea that was going to, cure what ailed me. And I'm like, dude, I don't even think I have something that ails me that needs that kind of, and he was pushing on my wife too. She's like, I'm pretty sure the baby needs something else besides, because she's pregnant, And so that was the first little red flag about this guy. And then he gets me on the table, and he puts me on my back. He walks around, looks at me, pulls on my leg a little bit. I'm like, all right, got to do the hip thing. And then I'm telling him my shoulder's hurting because I got sideswiped and I braced. And so all the translational force went this way, and this side is a little sore. And I knew it was just soft tissue inflammation, and it was probably going to go away in about 10 days. But, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm going to crack it so it doesn't hurt anymore. And he was like, how's it now? I'm like, it still hurts, dude. Like, it's going to still hurt for 2 weeks, and then it'll be okay. And then he gets my wife on the table, and she has like horrible morning sickness. And he's like, I can fix that. She's like, the hell you can. And he really believed that he could like fix all of her labor issues or pregnancy issues through an adjustment. Mm-hmm. And it was she was so creeped out by this. She's like, don't let him touch me again. So we left and didn't use that guy. But it was just really bizarre. Then we have other guys where like we'll take our kids to them because it's so obviously a science. There's no like, this guy had motivational pamphlets and stuff in his office where it's like, dude, what are you selling me? Because this is not what I signed on for. Yeah, very, very weird.
I wish we could regulate more our own profession. I wish if I were in charge of it, it would be bad. I would really, really hold our profession to a higher standard. The only thing I would always say, if you had some...
I thought you weren't into cancel culture.
Yeah, I'm all about canceling people. It gives me more patience in the long run. I'm self-serving all the time, by the way. That never stops. But I think also, if I'm looking at a medical practice in the 70s, I think there's a Surgeon General around the 70s that was endorsing one cigarette over the other one. Yeah, I think Joe Camel went all the way into the 80s, where the Surgeon General would get out on the commercials and say, this is the better cigarette for you.
Wow.
So if you're going to point to a chiropractor in the 70s or 80s, then I'm going to point to your medical doctor in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And I'm going to say, look, we both had losers. Let's operate in our specific fields now. And when I chastise people politically, I do the same thing medically. I go in, whenever I teach a CME, I would never, ever touch a JMPT journal. A JMPT journal is our chiropractic journal. And that's peer-reviewed research, and that's what we practice from, and that's kind of how we build our practice. And that's, there's there's MDs on the board and things like that. When I teach CMEs, and when I teach an orthos or president or anything like that, I always teach from spine. That's their journal. I teach from JAMA. I teach from their journals. Or I teach from British Medical. I don't do anything that's not within their journals. So if you're an ortho and you're sitting there waiting to hear something, you're amped up, I always make sure that I'm following their journal and their standards of care. Like, this is what your standards of care are, and they point to spinal manipulation as being a first-line therapy for someone who has a disc bulge. So if you think I'm being dangerous, if I'm adjusting someone with a disc bulge, that's your first-line therapy in your journal.
Mm-hmm.
So your standards of care here are in my practice, and that's what I'm doing.
I think that's such a salient point that, if you're going to go in the past and look for mess, you need to be consistent and do it across the board. That's something that we don't really do much. I have seen a CLE where it was a chiropractor and his opening was, look, everybody talks about the shady origins of chiropractic, but let's talk about what was going on in the medical world at the same time. And this is a lot of that same stuff. You had medicine based on the four humors. You had a lot of nonsense. I mean, you had the majority of human medicine has been crackery than it has been good.
Absolutely.
That's a fairly recent thing. And so people need to understand that when you want to take an opinion on something, you need to make sure it's always appropriately tethered to whatever you're doing. So if you want to go and judge what a chiropractor was doing 40 years ago based on what you know now, then that's just a completely ridiculous metric to use, because if you go back and look at what other guys were doing, they're going to be breaking the same kind of rules.
Yeah.
And so you're basically going to say nothing's good enough now because nothing meets the standard of now. And not to get political, but in other arenas, we see the same thing where people go back and say, Christopher Columbus or whatever, and they're calling the past or key figures of the past horrible, horrible things because they're looking at them through the lens of morality as we understand it today. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that's a very recent thing. I mean, what percentage of human history do you think is where people thought owning humans was wrong?
Mm-hmm. Oh, gross.
2%?
Yeah.
That's really, really recent. Mm-hmm. But they want to go back and be like, this guy was a bad guy, we should burn him down. Why? Because he didn't say slavery was bad. Okay, so basically what you're going to say is you're going to disavow all human history prior to the emancipation. Is it exactly what you want to do?
Yeah.
But no, and it's just
I think it's always dangerous to moralize anybody, and instead of immoralizing what they've done. No one's monolithic. If someone did something beautiful and great, let's remember the beautiful and great, and that's it.
Right? So I had this debate within the autism community, and it was over the name Asperger's. Okay. Now, the particular...
I know where you're going to go with this.
Do you have Asperger?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually in my family, and I just got diagnosed last year, and it was just kind of like, well, that explains everything that's ever been weird about me. Huh.
My partner's child has Asperger's. He's brilliant. He's a valedictorian at Ascension, and he's attending Georgetown now. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because if you I can see the similarities, because if my wife tries to engage with him in a way that's childish or superficial, you can see him grow frustrated. Mm-hmm. But if you dive into something deep, he's engaged and he's in, and he wants more of it. He wants to be challenged on his belief and in some kind of deep learning capacity, but he will get uncomfortable. And if you're small, hey man, how's the weather? What was it like yesterday? Mm-hmm. Like, you can see him start to wear. But if you're like, man, this what is the Department of Defense doing right now with this? He's engaged,
right?
And I think that's pretty cool.
It's actually a fairly recent thing that I've been able to socialize and have a good time. I used to hate crowds. I used to always want to be with myself because I couldn't do chit chat. I could not do banality. So if people wanted to just talk, I would freak out. And I'd freak out because I just didn't understand what the rules are. Because that's how autism is. You formalize everything. So everything is rule-based. There's no intuition. And so it's very inflexible. And so when I'm having chit-chat, it's like, well, what am I supposed to talk about? And since there are no... chit-chat is entirely intuitive. Because it's just like this dance of nothingness that we're both having a good time doing because we're just together. Yeah. And so there are no rules. And so I hated it and I wanted to avoid it at all costs. So if I ever went anywhere, like I played pool throughout the 90s and everybody knew me as this really weird genius kid because I didn't talk unless it was about something really, really deep. And so I would be at the bar getting hammered on bourbon talking about Nietzsche with some guy who's barely sitting on his stool because that's what got me engaged, because I knew the rules of that because I understood it. But when it came to just whatever stuff, couldn't figure it out. But anyway, back to the autism thing. The reason we got into it over Asperger because Asperger was a German scientist, I believe he was a German scientist, who did a bunch of cracky, not so good experiments on people. And so they wanted to erase him from history and remove the diagnosis from the lexicon. So there's autism spectrum disorder, ASD, which is the most broad category for everything. So this encompasses people like me who are almost non-presenting. Like you don't really see it until you start talking to me. You're like, this guy thinks weird, you know? And then you have on your side, your nonverbals, your people who just like can't function. I can't even. They ain't doing nothing. And then you got your people in the middle where you're like, something's weird, something's off with you. Like they look a certain way or they just have this idiosyncrasy that's really, really bizarre. Well, Asperger's only refers to the particular flavor that I have, where you can interact with people and you don't need someone to take care of you. My wife would disagree, but you're pretty high functioning in all those arenas. Well, they want to remove that. Why? Because he did some bad stuff. And so there was a lot of arguing within the autism community about whether or not we should still use it. And I was very much for it. And I was like, look, we can all say he did some bad stuff, but his contributions to our understanding of autism were groundbreaking, because he was the guy who showed that there was a difference between schizophrenia and autism and sociopathy with autism, because they all have that same look. You know, a sociopath will not empathize with people. Okay. Well, autism, people who have that sometimes don't look like they have empathy because they don't understand what's exactly going on. It doesn't make sense, you know? And so he was able to do tests to show, that these people that we think are psychos, they're not psychos. They just have this weird type of thing. So it's a very meaningful contribution. And so like what you were saying, why don't we celebrate that while still being like, yeah, he did some bad stuff, but like, this is meaningful, let's keep it. And that drives me crazy, that we'd rather lose meaning that works, you know, just because of some ridiculous emotional consideration of the past. That's bizarre. But
yeah. No one's monolithic. Everyone's done. No matter whoever is the amazing person that you idolize, they've done something bad.
Even Jesus ran with hose.
That's true. This is true.
Sorry, Mary Magdalene.
Right. So, all right, we're gonna change gears a little bit. I'm gonna ask you a question. All right.
I have one too. I'm knocking that off for a reason.
Well, you want to just jump in front of me? That's fine.
Yeah, I was going to.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sure my question's better, so he probably wants to hear the shitty one first. So go ahead.
We've overran John, so it's time for you to talk on your show.
No, it's all good. It's about your practice. It's like, how has your practice coped with the COVID? Like, were you guys shut down through a lot of the process, or was it?
No, we were explicitly named as essential and asked by the governor to stay open because, as I said earlier, the number one report at hospitals is still low back pain. Yep. So the whole goal of shutting people down is to prevent an overrun in the hospital systems. So we were asked to stay open. It was problematic, and I don't like complaining because I know dentists that were shut down. I know other people that were shut down and experienced all these hardships that, we had some, headaches, I guess. But one of my best friends, I guess I'll plug him too. His name's Christian. He owns a restaurant called Coterie in the middle of French Quarter. I mean, he is just absolutely slammed. His other business is in oil field, so he's getting slammed on both sides. So I can't, I don't want to complain.
Right.
I guess. So we stayed open and we had extra cleaning. We stayed extra hours to try to space out appointments and, hired more people and bought more stuff to clean and do all the,
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this, because it's the way it's the past. It's either you're coughing on somebody or someone touching their clothes after they wipe their nose or whatever. However, it was passed or is passed to another person. How did that affect your business? I mean, because literally you're touching and you're in people's face, especially if you're doing adjustments to upper, lower. You're all over the person.
We followed the ever-changing CDC guidelines for trying to mask and then stay functional. And the national CDC guidelines were for us to stay open, that John Bell pretty much adhered to, and we stayed open with certain precautions. And we were trying to treat acute care. So when it was really, really bad, and to a certain degree still, we say, listen, if it's something that can wait, we want you to wait. And if it's something that you would ever consider going to the ER for, come here first. So if you're, in a really bad, debilitating low back issue that could eventually put you in a place that you would compromise and overrun in the healthcare system, then we would intervene. So that's kind of where we were in this mess.
So with doing adjustments and stuff, what do you think about like floating therapy? Like, you know, people who can get in those you know what I'm talking about?
Those tanks?
Big
Float
tanks,
tanks?
the float tanks or whatever. Because I mean, it does decompress your back. You know, how do you feel about that?
There's, as far as I know, there's no peer-reviewed literature with floating tanks. I'm open to hear it. If it's therapeutic, maybe I'll include it one day. But as far as I know, you know, it's just not there. So
not there.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, there's
Sorry, I mean,
yeah.
It's fine.
but like that's a big thing because like if you go to either, you know, New Orleans or you can go to Houston, they have those chambers where, I mean, where literally you're floating and everyone talk about, oh, my back feels so much amazing. Like
They have They have them locally. They have them locally where you can get in a float tank where it's saline water, it keeps you afloat. They close a little pod over you.
Yeah.
I could see where it could be very, you know, stress relieving and stuff like that. But as far as inducing a physiologic response that change, I do a lot of disc herniations and disc bulges. I do a lot of pre and post surgical disc herniation rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not like, if it's not really in that realm, then I don't really know much about it. If it's wellness care, it's not covered by insurance because insurance won't cover anything with peer-reviewed literature, then I don't really know much about it.
And then he answered.
There you go.
there it is.
There you go. Speaking of CDC guidelines, what do you think people are going to be saying about what the CDC has been saying throughout the pandemic in like 50 years?
I mean, I won't judge because it's unprecedented to have something new. So for me to say, why can't you figure this out now?
Right. But I think in 50 years, people are going to look back at
Absolutely.
it.
I think they're gonna look at everything we do in 50 years and think you're a moron.
Yeah.
So if you go back to, and I use this not to go back to political, is where were you, or where you think you would be in the middle of civil rights? If you're in the middle of civil rights and you're sitting there and you're talking about politically what's going on, where, like, are you making decisions now in 50 years that you can look back and be like, man, was I on the right side of history or was I on the wrong side of history? And so I think about, like, if my dad or my grandfather's sitting around having smokes with their buddies sipping on whiskey and they're talking about what happened at the Capitol, where in history are you going to be? You know, and a lot of times the winners write history, I guess. But civil rights, if you know, I don't know. It's just all of our parents might have voted for. I mean, statistically, our parents voted for David Duke in the 90s. You know, you voted for a KKK leader in the 90s. Like, you have, like, where do you want to stand in history? Did you stand? Did you vote for a KKK leader?
Well, I think that's why that's why we have Trump right now. It's because a lot of people think that their voices weren't being heard.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're like, look, stop lying to
Well,
us.
to his point, you know, when my parents had to vote for governor, and it was between, I think, Edwin Edwards and David Duke, they voted for David Duke.
Yeah, and my parents did too.
And I asked them why, and they said, look, it was a really hard decision, but only one of them hated black people.
So that's awesome. But my parents the same way. They felt he was a crook. That guy was a crook, and this guy was this. So I know for sure my dad's a decent man, you know, and to think that he voted that way is like mind-boggling. But you don't know that because you weren't there. But if you're thinking of forethought for a CDC 50 years from now for a pandemic no one's ever experienced, I'm not judging that guy. I don't want to be judged for every decision I'm making right now.
Exactly.
Too harshly because maybe I'm ignorant, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we're all ignorant here when it comes to something that of this magnitude of this, you know, COVID or whatever. But you do have to look back and say, like, well, why in 2007 did you guys put a patent on this COVID virus in the first place? Like, why were these people? Why did they do that?
COVID's a broad.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the SARS-CoV-19 virus that was patented. It might have been a different one.
Yeah. I guess because they said, okay, this is what it is. They identified what it was, and then of course there's going to be different strands or whatever, or they made the different strands. But they're pretty sure that they could, you know, go like, okay, well, this is what it is. Let's figure a way to combat it.
Yeah, I'm not your expert on that, but if you speak to an epidemiologist, I think they would point to the saying, oh, this is a COVID/SARS/1 version that we're trying to patent and correlate treatments for now. And then, I mean, you know, the flu's been around a long time, and then the swine flu is different. That's a different flu, you know.
And that's the thing is people don't realize when you have a virus that's patented, that there could be a legitimate purpose for that. People are all thinking like,
Yeah.
oh, they patent this because they're really like, I don't like those people, so I'm going to infect them and kill them
Yeah.
all. Like, dude, biowarfare really isn't the only application because
Yeah.
viruses are used in so many gene therapies. And so I could see why you'd want to patent it.
Yeah, it's not conspiratorial if you're patenting COVID-1 and then COVID-19 is a completely different immune response. It's just different.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, if you're learning from COVID-1, how are you not trying to stop that from becoming a pandemic?
I don't know. I'm not that smart.
I think that's above our pay grades.
Yeah.
But let's get back
But
to
if
the
your
cigars.
If your back hurts, I'll help you.
Right?
Well, yeah.
So any observations now that I'm in my last third? So how are you guys doing?
I think I'll let mine die.
Mine died, so I got to relight it. And
I'm still back with there's no cream involved in this. I do catch the nut
I'm
flavoring,
with you, buddy. I have no
there
cream
is-
in my flavor profile here.
and my pepper has deteriorated. It's not there anymore.
It's not bad.
So it's a bit. So you recut, and was that?
No, you have to recut. I just to get a good relight, I knock my ash off and I smooth it off. That way, I'm getting the best contact between
Knocks
the
the
heat.
ash off of it.
Got to take that ash off. So I want to ask you a couple questions because
Known for knocking the ash off.
He's what got to get that ash. So I got two questions. I thought another one while you were talking. So, what is your experience with how insurance companies are handling COVID mandated alterations to chiropractic care?
Damn, you went deep on that.
Yeah, they really haven't implemented anything.
They're killing me. They're killing me over on my side because you guys, it's like you're told, okay, we have to keep seeing these people, but there's all these safety guidelines, and so all of my files for the months of March through June
Are problematic.
no one's maintaining the same treatment regimen because you're doing home care, and so I got records that or documenting phone conversations, but for the most part, all of my doctors said the same thing. Hey, we can't have them in the office while we're doing this, and this, and so we're giving people stuff to do at home, and all the insurance adjusters are like, there's a gap in treatment, so we're not going to value it.
Let's go to court.
And I'm just like, I'm about to start
that's where
filing under A and C because I explained to every single one of them, hey, this isn't because they just didn't want to go, buddy. It was called a government shutdown, and the governor told people you can't keep going like you were. So instead of going 3 times a week, you got 1 a month. And we all know this. And they've told me, yeah, we get that, but we're still going to lowball you because we think we can. And if I have to sue, I'm arbitrary. I'm alleging arbitrary and capricious all day, and I'm going to try to get treble damages and screw your policy limits.
I think that's great.
Looking at you, Safeway.
I think that's fantastic.
Well, did you adjust your prices because of the COVID stuff?
No. So
Well, I
price.
mean, you're going to have to go above and beyond to make sure that everyone in your practice stays safe.
Right.
So why wouldn't you? Just for that period of time.
Well, one, we got money to do that. Federal government did get money for us
Okay,
to
so
do
they
that.
stepped in.
Yeah, and they did it for hospitals, and they did large amounts. So, I think that's not a good argument for me. But price setting is not real in the medical world, I guess. Most of my price is already set. When I go in agreement with Blue Cross, I have my set price with Blue Cross and with United and everything else. So my prices are always the same. It's not like we go up with a burger or anything like that.
I kind of see it the other way. I would. The government compensated you, so it's different. But if you have to make concessions because of that, I mean, why wouldn't you have to just say, well, during this period, I have to charge the insurance companies a little bit more?
Yeah, because we do a lot of the same stuff. I mean, it's a different world, I guess, but I see that already. I have my file where someone had COVID, and then that's like 2 weeks, and then their mother got COVID, so they're at home taking care of their mother, so you have a 4-week gap, and then they're coming back, and everything's all botched. And I know for sure I'm going to end up in court, and they're going to say, well, this 4-week pattern here. I know that. I mean, been through depositions and everything else, and I think it's thrilling that you're going to go to court and, crucify these people for that. Because if you're holding these extra struggles over people so they can get a legitimate settlement is where I love doing what I do. I love helping people who are hurt in an accident and they have another doctor trying to discredit whatever they're doing, or an insurance company to discredit whatever happened. So that's why I like doing personal injury care.
The funny thing is I've never had an IME hurt me.
Yeah.
If you use good doctors, like the surgeon that I use, I'm always like, bring your guy.
Yeah.
Bring him, because I can guarantee you my guy's nerdier than yours. And I'm a professional nerd. I can spot him, you know? And sure enough, it never holds up, because it's like one guy sees you one time, they barely touch you, and they're like, right there, they're bored. Yeah, everything that other doctor said was bullshit. That's my expert medical opinion. And I'm just like, really? You ask a Magic 8 Ball to tell you that there, buddy? Because like, how the hell could you really get the foundation you need to discredit this guy when he's following, my guy follows the actual chart of like how you escalate care, and they're saying, like, they'll always say surgery's not needed. Like, the guy could have a leg missing, and like, we want to attach his leg. I don't think surgery's necessary.
And
Conservative care would fix that for him, you know?
I don't think I've hit it yet. So he's dealing with it right now. I'll hit it later. So when you said insurance, I'm thinking Blue Cross, United, and everything else.
No. I'm thinking of that.
And so you're dealing with it now, because you know that's now the time where you're going through settlements and demands and everything else. I'll hit it probably sooner. I mean, excuse me, I'll hit it later. So he's probably fighting with it now. Then we'll hear about it later. Like, we'll get it later.
All right, now I want to go to a happy place.
Just one more thing, just to,
For Christ's sake, John, I'm trying to
I'm
lift
sorry,
the mood
I gotta
here.
get to the audience. We gotta get them out there. Anyway, where's your practice located? So people that are local Lafayette that are going to watch this, where can they go see you if they need?
I have practices in Lafayette, New Iberia, and Opelousas.
Okay.
My Lafayette is on 207 Rue Louis.
Okay.
It's called Recovery Chiromed. RecoveryChiromed.com is the website.
Okay.
And we're right by Stellar's
Yep,
on Rue Louis,
yep.
right by the donut shop. And then we're right on 190 in the middle of Opelousas, and we're on Center Street in New Iberia.
There you go. So if you need help, there you go.
There you go.
Boom. All right. So,
Sorry, I gotta get it. I gotta
okay. All
plug
right.
it,
Fine.
bro.
Fine.
plug
Fine.
it.
John's trying to plug me. Don't interrupt him.
No, John was looking to plug him. I mean, like,
That's nuts.
that's the reason why I invited him on, because we needed tits, and he's got some tits. He's got them glorious pecs.
Yeah.
Got him front and center in front of the camera and everything. All right. So if we hit 150 subscribers on this show, he'll come back in a wife beater.
There you go.
There you go.
A wet white beater.
You got to work every angle you can. All right.
You just wanna see his pecs.
or maybe we'll just record the next episode from one of his cars.
All right.
Well, you might have to go in the trunk, John, but you're small.
I'm not small at all.
Okay, so let me get my other question, all right? So you've seen a lot over the years. What is the one patient where the result that you got was just so far and away above what you expected, like it was borderline miraculous, or you're like, wow, I can't believe I got to be a part of that and help this person?
Man, I've been practicing 12 years, so I've had, not to be like crazy, but I've had quite a few. So I've had a lot of people that they were like scheduled for surgery, and they came in and had a really good response. And I've had sometimes where I'm like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think that we should, I don't think I'm of benefit to you. And I kicked it to one of the surgeons, and the surgeon was like, no, let's try it. And then they got good responses too. So I don't think I have a singular miraculous story, and not that there's all kind of miracle healing going on in my office. But there's been a lot of people I've been very pessimistic about that had just really, really great responses. My favorite patient overall is someone who comes in and they'll be like, hey, listen, and I have it all the time. And they come in, I don't believe in chiropractors.
Oh.
That's the first thing they say when they see me. I don't believe in chiropractors. I'm not standing there like I'm a tooth fairy or something. I don't believe in chiropractors. I'm like, well, here I am. and let's see what you got. And it's our culture here. It's all filled, burly men or whatever hanging out. And they're like, I don't believe it. I'm like, no problem. You don't have to believe it at all. Let's see what happens. And most of those people get well and become really big referral sources. So there's been a lot of small miracles like that have built my practice and have been really cool.
I'm glad you brought up the oil field, because that's where I came up with that float tank thing, because a lot of the guys that I know that are in the oil field think, man, I go in them things and I feel rejuvenated. My back is back to normal, and I'm like, wow, maybe I should try it.
I also want to hang my hat too hard on the miracle effect, because there's still the placebo effect.
Oh, hey, but if you were instrumental in achieving that, you can take credit for it.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My favorite chiropractor story. This one just cracked me up. So there was a guy.
I have a lot of good stories now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to hear like that.
Oh wait, I have a great chiropractic story.
Okay.
That comes with tits.
Oh, sweet.
All right. So one of my first patients, all right, comes in with her mother, local private school girl. Comes in with her mother. She's having some problems or whatever, and we shoot an X-ray. and it was before we had digital X-ray machines. And they pull up her X-rays on one of those lights, So the rad tech goes and takes X-rays, and they're up in the room, and she's 16 probably, and she's in the room with her mom. And I've seen a lot of X-rays. I just kind of overlook, bullets or anything in there. I've seen everything you could see on an X-ray. And so when I hit the light for the X-ray machine, it pops up, and she's got her nipples pierced, and she is sitting in her private school outfit with her mom on the side of her.
And her mom didn't know.
Absolutely, her mom didn't know. Oh. And I initially kind of overlooked it because she's like a little teenager, and I'm just reading an X-ray, and I'm going over what I believe her problems are in the treatment plan. And I'm kind of looking at the X-ray, kind of looking at my notes, and I look over, and her mom is just piercing, mad, just anger, and she is just sunk and just whipped and beat because her mom now realizes her nipples are pierced on the X-ray, and that's like how she had to find out.
How does that happen?
Most awkward.
What? No, see, how does a 14-year-old get
it? Was probably 16, yeah, 15, 16. She looked 14 to me. I mean, she looked very, very young, and
oh man,
it was terrible but hysterical.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
Yeah.
That's one of those. I'm gonna have a stick and talk about this later.
Yep.
All right. Let me tell my story. It's almost depressing though because this guy was trying really hard. So I have chronic back pain, and I know that it's because there is a disc injury there, and so my life moving forward has to be a management regimen of. I have to make sure I'm exercising. I have to make sure I'm stretching. I have to do these things to keep all the systems functioning in a way where I can cope. And if I have a period of idleness, my back will start hurting again, and it can flare up. So I go to this guy because I had never treated with him before, and he was close to my office, and he kept wanting me to send him more referrals, but clients would be like, I don't want to go to him. I want to go somewhere else. So I just didn't really send more referrals to him, and he kept belly aching about how he wants more business from me. So I was like, fine, I'll go over to you and see what all the hubbub is. And so I go over there, and I know what my diagnosis is. I've gone to 70,000 chiropractors, and all the good ones have basically figured out the same thing. And so I'm not expecting any kind of epiphany from this guy. But what I got was no diagnostics whatsoever. He didn't look at a single file, no charts. He didn't take any X-rays. He was just like, "What's the problem, man?" I kind of tell him, "He's like, all right." And so he's like, so this was his diagnosis. Okay, I'll tell you guys the entirety of the visit. He's like, stand up. So I stand up. He pushes on my shoulders. He's like, all right. He gets behind me, like, turn around, and I walk to that wall. And I'm thinking, like, normally if you're in a room with a guy and he tells you, you're taking pictures of my ass or something.
Yeah, you just want to look at my butt.
So I go and I walk to the wall. I turn on and I walk back, and he's like, I got it. I'm like, oh my God, is this dude seriously going to tell me that he has single-handedly solved the riddle because he's got freaking Superman vision and he doesn't need any diagnostic testing whatsoever? He can just watch me walk to a wall. Sure enough, he was like, yeah, oh, you got one leg shorter than the other one. I'm like, but I don't. Okay, no one's, it's never been detected. I've had so many doctors working on my hips and my legs, and no one's ever done that. And I don't have any of the problems that someone who has it, because if you have one leg shorter, you have hip problems, which lead to back problems. I don't have hip problems. Never had hip problems, okay? I have back problems because I blew my discs out playing basketball because I'm a freaking giant. I guess the Superman vision didn't see that part, okay? So anyway, I'm like, really? And I don't tell him, you're full of crap. I was like, let me see what this guy can do. So he puts me on the table, and he like pulls, he does like one little adjustment, like pulls on me, and then he touches a spot on my back. And he says, try that now. I think you'll like it. I'm like, did this dude just Jesus me? He's touching me, and now I'm healed. So I stand up.
It's like those people who just like put their hands over you. Go.
So I stand up, and he's like, all right, turn to one side. Tell me if you feel anything. And I go to my good side. I'm like, no, I can go all the way. I have full range of motion, no pain. He's like, no, go to this side. I go to this side, and I have the pain. That is always there. And I'm like, I have a pain right there, because I'm pretty sure he didn't do anything. And he's like, oh, that's okay. Get back on the table. And he does it again. Same exact thing. Does it again. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a quote about doing the same thing and expecting different results. But anyway, I digest. So he has me stand up again. He's like, try now. And he's so damn proud of himself. And I do it again. I'm like, and there it is again. Pain is still there, And he's like, not to be defeated. Get on the table again. I'm like, how many times is this dude going to poke me in the back before he realizes?
Wait for the placebo effect. Like, you're like, oh my God,
dude, he did it like 10 times. And finally, I was like, I'm cured. Can I go now? And he was just like, I knew it.
He won.
And he won. And I was like, I have to get out of here. I'm not going to tell him you're. So that was like, you're the old. Nope. No one's ever going to you again, buddy.
Confidence definitely matters.
And that's
for a lot
when
of those
Yelp was.
I've had a lot of bad chiropractor stories. Next time I'm bringing a lot of bad lawyer stories.
Oh, I got some bad lawyer stories. Oh my God. If there's one thing I dislike more than crap doctors, it's attorneys.
That's how it should be. You should hold your own profession to the highest standard.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's why I'm so perpetually just disgusted with what my colleagues do, because I'm like, how do you look at your oath? But then I realize that because I'm the way that I am, I look at everything from a rule base. So I look at being an attorney as like, well, there's all these rules I got to follow. And then I see all these other lawyers who are breaking all these rules. And I'm like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm good at what I do because I do these things? Mm-hmm. But they don't think that way, you know?
But how do they get away with them? Because being a lawyer, I mean, you just have to follow the rules, and you can create an argument, and then the judge has to decide on whose argument is better.
Okay. All right.
How do they get away with it?
You have a problem with an attorney? Who's going to sue him? You got to go find somebody to sue him.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not going to go do it pro se.
So it's a money game.
So no. It's a politics game. It's a power game. All right. Nobody. Because people don't think like a Spurg, where it's like there's right and there's wrong, and if you do what's wrong, we're gonna go get you. That's the way I see the world, but that's not the way other people do. Other people see the world in terms of tribes and guilds, and they have loyalties. And so you go to another attorney and say, hey, I want you to sue this guy because he did these horrible things. They're not gonna say, I disagree with you. He did not do those. They're gonna say, you're gonna have to find somebody else because I'm not comfortable going after him. Because he's a friend of mine, or we just don't do that here.
But why can't you just get the person disbarred if they're doing things that are unethical? You just go to the board and say, hey, I want to file a complaint, and then you just have them look into it.
Because once you get into the guild, you really got to screw up to get you out of the guild. You get a lot of concessions.
Yeah.
And so
what would merit that?
Messing with client money.
That's the only thing?
That's the big thing. You mess with the trust, and they'll disbar you real fast.
Because everything's gray except money. You can.
yeah, and there are a lot of ways. One of the things that we're forced to do is that I do not have the ability to resolve a case without express consent from the client, whether that's to take an offer or whatever. The only thing I don't need the permission to do is receive a judgment because we've already gone to trial. But if there's a deal on the table, no matter how good it is, I'm not allowed to take it without bringing it to them and having them tell me, yes, take it.
Now,
okay.
In my experience with attorneys, it's been very, very good. There's been really only one really bad instance where I couldn't get my services paid for by an attorney. And I went to that attorney's office, and you don't know what to do. I was kind of new in practice. And my remedy to that was, look, write everything down that you have a signed lien, and then present that to the bar. And with that thread, I got paid. So the money thing, I think, is the ringer.
Yeah, the money. But I have a guy right now, a New Orleans attorney, who took over a case after I withdrew because I had issues with my client. I didn't trust him, and so he got induced. He got solicited, which right off the bat, that's illegal. But an attorney, he comes to me and says he wants a big advance on his case, and his case didn't warrant. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Because you're the linchpin of the whole thing, and you got crap for credibility. I'm not going to put that kind of money in you. And so he's like, well, this other guy, he told me that he'd give me the money if I hired him. I'm like, well, tell me who that guy is, because I'm going to turn him in, because you can't do that. You cannot solicit a case like that. But he ends up firing me anyway, goes to this guy. The guy settles the case. But as soon as I give my client the file, I'm sending liens. I send a lien to the insurance company. I send a lien to the new attorney. And I'm like, look, I'm asserting my lien for expenses and my fees. So you're going to have to talk to me when you settle the case. Well, the guy settles the case. I don't hear a word. I find out from my client that the case has been settled. And find out this dude, this attorney, because I get all the information from my client because we still talked. The attorney took his fee out. Mind you, I was in charge of all the medicals. I sent him to all the doctors. I orchestrated everything. This guy did nothing other than just like take the money that was on the table. But I had done all the work. So this guy takes his cut, gives the entirety of the rest of it to the client. Under like, you're going to take care of all the expenses. And of course he didn't. He went and bought himself a new truck because he's an idiot. Because that's why there's all these rules about how we have to handle obligations, because you can't just transmit that to the client, they're not going to do it. So and this was Dr. Barczyk was the healthcare provider. He stiffed everybody. And so I go to the guy, and his defense was, I didn't have any liens from them. I'm like, yeah, but I had the liens from them, and I sent them to you. And he's like, yeah, but it wasn't directed to me. And the client said he was going to pay for everything. He threw my client under the bus. We went to the bar. That was 2 years ago. I still don't have a ruling. I don't know what they're going to do with this guy. They just said, well, we're not sure. We're going to keep investigating. I'm like, what do you need to investigate? I have correspondence from the insurance company saying to this guy, hey, we have a lien. Are you going to take care of it? Or should we put his name on the check? And he's like, no, I got it. So they make the check out to him, and then he takes it and runs. And his defense was like, oh, I didn't think that you meant that lien. I thought you meant just your lien for expenses. I was like, dude, how full of crap are you?
Yeah.
You know, what more do you need to yank a dude's license as a crook? He hasn't even been censured yet. There's been no admonishment. It's just like, we don't know yet. So, you know, you can't put that much faith in your institutions to police people. You gotta really do your homework and know who's decent, who's not. And so, yeah, but moral of the story is you got bad apples in every profession, and you got to be really careful who you listen to, because you get put in the wrong way, and it's no bueno. Mm-hmm. How are we doing on those sticks, guys?
Good. I'm about I don't know. I think I'm listening or talking.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I'm about out of mine, and
yeah, I'm done.
Our time is good. So what I want to ask you is, how has the cigar smoking experience been this time? Since I know you don't typically stick with a stick as long as we have today.
I mean, I like it. I mean, it takes me back. Like I said, like when I was smoking cigars, we used to sit out in Fort Worth and sit out having our little whiskey drinks, post Mexican margaritas. But we'd sit out in his house, in his porch, sitting there rocking chairs. And so it took me back a little bit. I like the mild stuff, I can tell you that.
How do you find the nicotine buzz?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm noticing that or the bourbon.
Well, that's the thing, is they go well together, because one is a stimulant, one is a depressant, and so it's just kind of like you're just feeling good.
I think I need more to form an opinion.
So I'm gonna out my wife here. She's gonna hate me for telling this story, but last night we went out to smoke cigars, and she was having a Padron 1964, which is a very full-bodied Maduro. It is one that, like, we would have been sadistic to give you that to smoke, because it's black like this. It's a very, very dark cigar, and it's an exceptional smoke. But I'm looking at her like, you ambitious tonight, girl. Anyway, she's smoking that. She smokes the whole thing, okay? And we're drinking, whatever. I'm smoking a Monte Cristo Leyenda, which is, in the Cuban cigar world, that is up there with the Pyramidas Extra as the best Monte Cristo cigar. And so I'm smoking that. Well, I have to go to the bathroom. I give mine to her, and because hers is done, so like she starts smoking that too. And like within a minute, her head's on the table. She's just like, boom. And we're like, I think it's time for us to go. And and I asked her what was the problem. She was like, that second cigar. Like, it jumped on me, and it was like overwhelming. Couldn't handle it. But the thing about these little mild guys is you're not going to get too harsh of a fix from it, because it's mellow. And that's why we ended up going with one of these sticks and not the one that originally I was going to do, because it was much more full-bodied. But
I appreciate the soft entry.
There you go. I wanted all the guys that I get on that we have a good time with. I'm like, dude, we'll get you back on here, because not only did I want you on this show because this would be a cool opportunity for us to discuss some issues that I think the greater viewing public has an interest in seeing how it's done, because one of the things that I noticed with you right off the bat, because I meet so many doctors that I work with, but there's not too many of them where I'm like, I want to smoke a cigar with that guy, you know. But the thing about you that I saw was that there's such a pronounced appreciation of what you don't know about everything, and it makes what you say have a lot more, like, I don't want to say gravitas, but it lands more, because I would agree. The listener knows you're not overextending what you know. And that's such a big problem, is people, their conclusions are so far beyond their factual basis that it's like, I can't go with you, buddy. I don't believe anything you're saying, because if you're going to overextend that much in this direction, then you do it all the time. Yep. And I really wanted to see a conversation that's going to tackle some pretty contentious issues, yet have, like, Well, I don't know. I can't speak on that, and that's the thing that I think we need a lot more of, because I'm really sick and tired of talking to people who just act like they know everything and they don't need to listen to anything you have to say. And
I know a lot of nothing. So that's what you're saying? I think that's what you just congratulated me for. I'm glad we had a guest on that didn't know shit.
I don't think that's what he said.
I walked into that. It's fine. It's all good.
But you know where we need to go from here? We need to see where he would put this on the scale.
Oh, you like to put him on the spot.
Well, yeah, I'm going to put him on the spot in that way, because I mean he's not a connoisseur, but I mean he can tell a good cigar from a bad cigar.
This is true. Okay, so what John is pressing you to do is assign a score to the cigar, and so there is a 100-point system, and it's obviously subjective.
100-point.
But but the breakdowns, it's like 90 and above is considered an outstanding smoke. 80 to 90 is a good smoke. 70 to 80 or 79 is like satisfactory. It's almost like the grading scale. People look at the way their cigar smokes, the way it ashes, the way it looks, all that kind of stuff. And so,
I guess in my very naive opinion, I would give it a 75, because it's something I would smoke again and hang out and drink and smoke again, but nothing I would write home about. I didn't taste anything or anything that would be like wildly.
Me.
It's like wildly unique, or I wanted to taste. I wanted to taste the cream.
We all were like, "Where's the cream?"
There's no
cream. It says a cream on the label.
And I don't even know if I've ever had a creamy cigar. So.
We need to get him a vinegar.
Well, there's so many worlds to show you at this point. But as far as the score, I find no fault in your score. I think it's on the money. I enjoyed the cigar, but as far as being this kind of cigar that would fit into my rotation, not likely. Like if I'm going to have a Connecticut in the morning, which is generally when I want a milder stick, because you don't want to start your day with the I'm high as a cat right now. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to function. So I like to smoke a cigar before I go to the office. I don't know if this would make the cut, just because I have a lot of Monte Cristo whites, which are Connecticut's, very mild, but the flavor way better than this. It's got a richer, more complex flavor. This was, I thought, a fairly pedestrian smoke. It was pretty good, but it never wowed me. I kept waiting for that potential to show up, and it just never got there. And
so where are you sitting? What's your score?
I think a 75 is pretty damn good as far as the score, because it's not bad. I wouldn't dip it below that, but it's not anything special.
Too high for John.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, he's the Simon Cowell of the crew. He always gives the low score.
Go low. I'm sorry. You cannot say cream in the title of the cigar.
That's true.
Fair.
And then there be none.
We judged it for what it was. You judged it for what it was not.
Because look, when you have
I get it.
When you have this presentation with the white little lace, I'm thinking this is going to be a sexy cigar. This is going to be a good cigar, and you don't even have a hint of cream in it. You're going low. You're going down on the scale.
All right, let me hear it.
71.
Woo! That's our lowest score of the show.
Wow.
So now Jason no longer has bottom spot. Now it's the Espinosa Crema. The way this is, we're going to end on a very inappropriate story. So your explanation, your analysis of the trappings of how it had all the indicia of this amazing smoke, and it just completely failed to deliver, reminds me of a time my first year in graduate school. I was not good at dealing with women at all, but there was this girl who had moved in next door to me at the apartment complex, and she noticed me. And right off the bat, that meant we had to get married, right? I mean, that was the way I thought back then, because I was not smooth at all. And so I started talking with her because I didn't have anything else to do really. And things progressed. We went out, and one of the things that I really liked about her was that she had a very nice bosom, because I'm what's called a dude. And so I appreciate.
And you have eyes.
Yeah, right. I do have eyes, and so I appreciate.
You're not in the committee.
I appreciate. No. You will never see me at a committee meeting, buddy. Not in the committee.
I am in the committee. Go ahead.
It's fine. It's fine. Hey, all shapes and sizes, my friend. So
any more than a handful, you're getting yourself in trouble.
Anyway, so I was all about. She was trim, athletic, and had a nice rack. So I was all about it. Well, then came the time to close escrow. Where I was like, okay, things are getting serious here, and she takes off the bra, and that's all it was. There was nothing under the bra because it was a water bra, and it was just like you were packaged
False advertising.
like you were filet mignon and you were a Vienna sausage. Like I was but I had to not show it here because
your tail is always on your face.
Oh my!
I have to call you out. Like it's always right here.
Yeah, well, not everybody's trained, all right, in like picking up tells like that. She did not pick them up, but it was just absolutely horrific, and
poor girl.
It didn't last long after that. I was just like, hey, can you ask your bra what's doing next week? I'll go out with that.
Please don't say your name.
No. I'm autistic. I'm not a dick.
See, I would have ousted you, but
I don't want to get shot. Yeah, you did. You ousted that other girl in that story.
I'm so sorry.
But that was an accident.
It wasn't because I was just like, I was showing the story, and I was like, oh, this is what happened. I'm sorry.
So before we sign off, I want to say that it's been amazing having you on the show. I've really appreciated the conversation. I like hearing your insights. Any person who actually thinks about what they have to say, I want to hear what they have to say. Yeah. Because so often I deal with people online, they just react. And that's what they say. And so it's basically I'm reading a congealed emotion into text, which I don't care about because I don't appreciate emotions because I'm a spurt. So like I have to see the ideas. Spurt. And so this was every bit what I expected it would be, and it was really great. And I hope that you enjoyed the cigar. And next time I have a cigar shindig, you'll show up.
All right, man. Cheers.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Good conversation. Good sticks. And
with that being said, I'm John Welsh, and I'm the gentleman.
And I'm Alex Stanford, and I'm a scholar. And he's the chiropractor.
And he'll just
keep it smoky.
Keep it smoky.